welcome to the June version of the Johnston County Planning Board. As is our custom, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Hudson, will you lead us, please, sir?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Second item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from the May 16th Planning Board meeting.
Which I read them last night, so I make a motion to approve as written.
Second.
Motion approved by Mr. Hudson, second by Ms. Davis. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, next on our agenda are subdivisions. I'll remind everyone here that the vast majority of land in Johnston County is on agricultural residential, which means you can farm it or you can build houses on it. As such, this is a quasi-judicial hearing because we are the last approval body for any subdivisions that are proposed for this evening. So if you're going to speak as it relates to a subdivision and give testimony, I would ask that you please stand and raise your right hand. For, against, if you have any questions, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear that the information you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and this is your solemn affirmation? All right, thank you. Mr. Moore.
First up is Hillard Lane subdivision. The owner and developer is Tupelo Honey Land Development, LLC. Its location is Hillard Lane off of Harris Wilson Road in the Wilders Township. It's served by the Holders Fire District and Clayton Rescue Squad. 22.7 acres, 14 lots proposed, private individual wells and individual septic. The traffic count's not available for that road. This portion of Hillard Lane does not appear on the comprehensive transportation plan as needing improvement. This parcel is within an environmentally sensitive area, and a small floodplain appears on the parcel.
All right. Any questions of staff? Who'd like to be heard on my, thanks, sir. Who'd like to be heard on behalf of the Hillard Lane subdivision? Give us your name and address, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Keith Roberts, 202 Monica Creek Drive in Garner. I'm the civil site engineer for the project.
Thank you. That's a little better, I guess. Can be heard now. Thank staff for their presentation and also for their recommendation of approval. Would appreciate your support tonight. Here for any questions. Fairly small 14-lot subdivision, all minimum 1 acre lots. It will be the continuous of Hillard Lane and actually the end of Hillard Lane with a cul-de-sac. Currently it's just a stub street.
Any questions of the gentleman?
No, sir.
In between lots 8 and 9, is that just an easement to go back to the open space back at the back behind lots 8, 7, 8, and 9?
Yes.
Okay.
Access.
I like to say it's refreshing to see open space instead of fees paid every time. It's a pleasant change.
This is definitely a very low density project.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to be heard on behalf of Hillard Lane? Anybody in opposition to or with any questions as it relates to Hillard Lane? All right, bring it back to staff.
Staff recommendations, preliminary approval subject to the conditions and requirements in the staff report.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion approved by Ms. Howard, second by Mr. Little. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Pendergrass.
Pendergrass subdivision is owner and developers J&N Developers LLC. It's surveyors Trueline Surveying and Amped Engineering. Location 675 Quarterhouse Road in the Boone Hill Township. served by the Brogden Fire and Princeton Rescue Squad. It's 18.646 acres, 16 lots proposed. Johnston County Public Water and engineered option permit septic is proposed. Traffic count's not available. This portion of Quarterhouse Road does not appear on the comprehensive transportation plan as needing improvement, and all lots must be internally served.
Any questions of staff? Thank you, sir. Who'd like to be heard on behalf of Pendergrass subdivision?
Good evening, Board. Kirk Lane, True Line Surveying, Clayton, North Carolina. Here to speak on Pendergrass subdivision. The lots are designed and have been approved by a private soil scientist, as they are. Hence the wraparound lots for the off-site septic areas. There is no mail kiosk on your map, but we have had a preliminary approval on the 1415 property line on the right-hand side coming in.
Any questions?
I had a question about the utility easement. What was that for?
For the large tract that's in the back, you talking about the one that's coming off the cul-de-sac? So that he can get power and water run by there.
Okay.
Cable.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else like to be heard as it relates to the Pendergrass subdivision? All right, bring it back to staff.
There's people that want to speak about that. Yes, I'll go first.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Give us your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Twyla Casey Wells, Twyla Casey Wells at 821 Quarter Horse Road, Princeton. And my questions relate to water drainage, because if you'll see the tract that says Melva D. Casey, that's the farmland that I live on that property, and Mr. Danny Cornetti farms that farm. And a few years back, we had to put in flexible drainage buried in the ground on the farm due to the wet land of it already. And so my concern is when we start putting these homes in, we're going to push further water onto the farm, to my farm as well. So I just would like that to be addressed. And then also, if I could ask Mr. Lane, relevant to, we have homes that we own on that road, Quarter Horse Road. They are presently wonderful well water, and I'm curious as to the impact of the water quality when we start putting in 16 septic tanks, and what does that do in terms of compromising our existing water supply? And, you know, what for the infrastructure to support that. We already have some water that comes over that road, and then I think there's someone else here that's going to speak to some other issues, that water that comes off the farmland there that creates traffic issues in terms of closures on Progressive Church Road, and then water running across there that comes down just a little, what would be east of the plat that would be developed there on that land. And then when there's a report that doesn't impact the comprehensive traffic report, what does that mean? And what do I've already lost probably half a dozen or better mailboxes because I live in the curve there, and we already have a development across the road there, a small subdivision, and people kind of use that as a cut through from Progressive to Woodard with increased speeds. And so I'm just wondering, how does, when the developments are added into the scope of the road, and if they're not part of the comprehensive traffic plan, at what time do they become part of that, and how do we address like the wear and tear on the road as well as just from a safety perspective?
All right. So, question on drainage, septic affecting the wells and the transportation impacts of the subdivision. Right, gotcha. Okay, I'll get some, we'll let everybody speak and I'll get you some answers from that. Others that like to speak as it relates to Pendergrass? Yes, sir. Give us your name and address, please, if you don't mind.
I'm Robert Daughtry, and this subdivision is going behind my house.
Okay, what's your address, if you don't mind?
Robert Daughtry,
Yes, sir. Yeah.
641 Quarter Horse Road.
641.
Quarter Horse, not Quarter House. Somebody calls it Quarter House. The problem we've got here, the family that owns the property has not communicated with us at all. We don't know if there's going paved roads in there. We don't know how the water's going to flow on the property after the road is put in. We don't know anything. And I think they deserve letting us know what's going on. And I suggest that y'all don't pass it the way things are right now. It's my home place. I own the home there. My home is probably worth $300,000. I don't know what price range houses they're going to build. I don't know if the road's going to be paved. And Twala here, where her brother lives, the road is going to come out, and it's 16 houses. It's going to put 32 cars there. And then you multiply the people that's going to live there and how many children they're going to have. Is this road going to be where a school bus can go in there? Are they going to put up a mailing box? There's just so many things that we don't know what's going to happen. And it's y'all's job to tell them what they got to do. If it's going to be a $400,000 house, or a $300,000 house, or a $100,000 house, you know. And there's part of the land that is in that drawing that will not pass soil sample test if you go there and bore it. In the part that used to be what we call a hog pasture, what we raised hogs at when I was a kid, it is a grayish clay soil there. You know how hogs used to make holes in the ground? Those holes where the hogs wallowed in, they never dried up once they filled up with water. So on that map, which I don't, I could show you, where, and the way they have my house where I live in, and I'm very proud of that, the fact that I've lived there as many years as I have. There's all the yard, the way they laid out, I'm going to have 7 septic tanks in those lots right behind my house. And like Twala said, we do have the best drinking water in the county. My well is only 35 foot deep. I've never got on your Cedar water because I don't like East Water River. Water coming out of East River. And I'm just asking y'all to do your job. Go down there and see what it is. Have any of you been there yet?
Rode by it.
Huh?
Rode by it,
Well,
but I haven't walked back there.
well, and let's see. I got this letter here talking about I've never seen a subdivision divided the way these lots are divided right here. You see, you take this lot here and it goes all the way, right here, comes all the way down to here. That, how wide a streak is that? I don't know. I mean, you know, and that is in woodland and so.
Well, I'll get you an answer on the drainage. On the paved road question that you have, it is proposed to be paved roads, and there appears that they're designed to the county subdivision standards. So that's at least one answer for you, but we'll get an answer from the applicant on drainage patterns and how that's going to be handled, and same thing with septic as well, the septic setbacks. The paved road question that you have, they are proposed to be paved roads. On the mail kiosk question that you have, they will have a mail kiosk inside the subdivision. I will get you answers on the drainage portion, on how the drainage patterns will work with this subdivision, and we'll also ask about septic setbacks. The county does have septic setback requirements from wells. They have to be a certain distance from a well. We'll make sure that they're meeting that distance.
Well, the thing about it is, you could put the septic tanks in the front yard if you leave this drawing like it is.
We'll ask about the locations of the septic fields and the distance from the wells, and make sure it's meeting those county standards. And environmental health will make sure they're meeting as well before they'll permit any septic field. But we'll get you some answers to your question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to be heard as it relates to Pendergrass?
I'll say a little something about it.
All right, come on and give us your name and address if you don't mind.
My name's Wayne Worley. I live at 3465 Progressive Church Road. And my only concern is since 2013, Progressive Church Road just started flooding really bad. I got videos of it. And I just don't want that. My property joins. They don't join it, but it's just a little ways from it. But we're getting all the water off of that, off them corners. And I don't want the water diverted that way. That's my only issue. I don't have any other issues or anything. I just wanted my property to be protected, you know. So. And that's all. Like I said, we don't know what's happened. I've got soil and water out there. I've had DOT out there, and no one seems to know how to divert the water, and that's just what we don't want, the more flooding, you know. So
Okay.
I've got a video right here. And that's from like 4 inches of rain from 2020. And the day the road ditches, it's already, by in the morning, it'll be across the road. And the water's coming from that way. I just don't want more water diverted on my property, you know. So it comes off the adjacent properties to my property. So
Okay.
that's my only concern.
And where along Progressive Church does it flood? Sort of
Right
south
at
of-
3465. It goes there, it cuts across. I wish DOT would clean out the ditch, but I've been trying to get it for 10 years, and they said they'd rather me clean it out. So, but with fiber optic cables and water lines, my backhoe's not going on it, so without their permission. So,
I see exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, but like I say, it's not just a little flooding, and I've had to call the fire department 3 or 4 times to shut the road down, but that's, like I say, I just want to divert the water the right way is all my own concern with it. So.
Okay, we'll ask about that. Thanks, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, Kurt, we've got a couple questions. It sounds like we've got some questions about the proposed stormwater drainage and how that's going to work. Making sure we're meeting the county's requirements for septic setbacks from wells, and you got anything to say about transportation impact?
All right, so I'm gonna go by memory of the questions and let me know if I go out of order or if I missed one.
Yes, sir.
So the first one is, the easiest one, is the roads are proposed to be paved to Johnston County and DOT standards. They are proposed to be turned over to the DOT system once the subdivision is 80% complete, lived in to meet their requirements, so they will become public roads. They will be designed in such a way that emergency access vehicles and school buses can go down them. We have no control over whether or not the school bus system will send that route down there, or, you know, that's totally up to them. There will be one mailbox kiosk for all the residents inside as per the new requirement from the Postmaster General, instead of individual mailboxes.
Where's the mail kiosk gonna be?
It's going to be on the 1415 property line
Okay,
on the right-hand side as you come in, that second one right there.
okay.
That's the preliminary location that they have approved. There'll be an internal water system that will service all the lots. There will be on-site septic for each lot, much like the neighboring lots that are there now. The neighboring lots are, as the gentleman and the lady spoke, said that they were on individual wells. So right now, the county says that you have all septic systems, including theirs, should be 100 feet from any wells. So the ones that are permitted in this neighborhood will also be 100 feet from any adjacent well. There will be no wells on our site. So they'll be permitted through Johnston County Environmental Health, and they'll meet Johnston County and state standards. Stormwater up and down the existing DOT road system is out of our control. That is a DOT situation that they need to address. What we are required to do anytime any land is developed, whether it's commercial, residential, is to have a stormwater management plan that is designed, implemented, built, and completed such that no additional water runoff in any greater volume happens post-development as it is pre-development.
So the amount of runoff that's on there now is the same runoff that you'll have after it's developed?
Or less.
Or
The
less.
road system will allow it to, have less impact on Quarter Horse Road than it will, but you cannot have more.
Was there a note for the voluntary ag district? If there was, I overlooked it.
I don't see it.
If there is, it is in that little note section that you can't read. I can't read because it's too small on that screen.
Voluntary ag districts.
It's kind of across the street.
So there is one across the street. If you go back to
It's right at the corner of Woodard and Quarterhouse. It just needs to be noted on here.
Correct. If it's not in that little section that's too small to read, I'll make sure it gets on there.
Yeah. I don't see it.
No.
Questions of the gentleman?
Can you explain to the gentleman, he had asked why parcels 5 through 9 are showing these long runs around
That's where
the
their
parcel?
septic, off-site septic area will be. So their house will be up there, and much like anybody whose house is lower on a hill than where their septic is, you have to have a pump. So they'll pump it to those areas, which will be designated as their septic area.
Is that primary or repair or both?
That is repair.
Repair, okay.
Primary on-site, repair off.
Kurt, has anybody performed the pre and post calcs on the runoff yet?
Not that I know of
Okay.
yet. If AMP Engineering has done that, they have not shared it with me. But to be honest, they don't really share it with me until they do it, the county approves it, then it's ready to go.
Understood.
But it will not go under review from the county until it's approved here. I'm not even sure they will review it until it's approved here. They may. No, I don't think so. Did I miss anything?
I think you covered the questions I have, I've never heard about kind of the off-site, so
Well,
so you're saying.
hang on just a second. Yeah, we'll need you to, thank you. It's for minutes and since we're streaming.
Sure.
Thank you.
So I need to better understand about the septic that's going to go in those, because that butts up to, again, that will be on property that I own, and I'm just wondering what the impact is.
And
What-
and you're talking about the ones with long.
Right, with the
I can
long,
explain that
what
to
is that? You said it's something about repair?
So you're required to, in part of a septic system, have a primary septic field where the septic field goes.
Mm-hmm.
And you're also required to have an area, if that septic field ever goes bad, to put in another one. That's called your repair area.
Okay,
So those areas are purely for repair. So
Okay.
they will not initially be used, they may not ever be used as a septic system.
Okay.
But it's there in case the primary system ever goes bad, you've got more room to put one. You basically are required to have double the amount of septic field that you need for
Okay.
your house.
okay,
That's-
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you
No
for
problem at all.
educating me on that.
Thank you. I think we're good with Kurt. We'll bring it back to staff. Thank you, sir.
Staff recommendations, preliminary approval subject to conditions and requirements in the staff report.
I'd also just like to note that this is under the Brogdon Fire Department, and that one is an all-volunteer fire department. I know that's been brought up several times for public safety. That is a all-volunteer fire district.
Entertain a motion when you're ready.
Should I speak? I didn't know it was gonna go back.
No, ma'am, we've closed the public hearing thing.
Oh, okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion approved by Mr. Lovering, a second by Mr. Little. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, Oakmont.
Oakmont subdivision, owner Deborah Stokely and Teresa Richardson. Developers Oakmont Investors LLC. Surveyors Adams and Hodge Engineering. Location's 800 block of Thanksgiving Fire Road in the O'Neills Township. It's served by the Northside Fire District and Thanksgiving Rescue Squad. It's 19.3 acres, 20 lots proposed. Johnston County Public Water, individual septic, traffic counts not available. This portion of Thanksgiving Fire Road does not appear on the comprehensive transportation plan as needing improvement. All lots must be internally served.
Any questions of staff? All right, thanks, sir. We'd like to be heard on behalf of Oakmont subdivision.
Good evening. I'm Donnie Adams with Adams and Hodge Engineering, 314 East Main Street, Clayton. My firm is the planners and engineers on this project. Again, this is the Oakmont subdivision. We're proposing, as you can see, 20 lots, as Todd stated, well below the density that's allowed. This is not inside the environmentally sensitive overlay district, so the lot sizes are held to 30,000 square foot minimum. We meet that. Also, you'll note on the map that we've identified a voluntary ag district right next door to us. Don't know exactly what it's functioning as. It's wooded along the front. There's looks like an agricultural field out in the middle of it. It looks like from aerials, maybe row crops at some point. But back to our site, one thing that, well, first off, so our streets are designed according to the county requirements as well as NCDOT standards. We show our typical sections on here, both structure-wise and distance measurement-wise, cross-section. Also, one thing I'd like to point out in honor of Ms. Nicole Hackler, that the CBUs are shown at the front on the left-hand side as you drive into it. I'm sure she appreciates that.
We'll make sure she watches the video tonight.
Outside that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
We're going to take a picture and send it to you.
Any questions?
Are you gonna have to do like a drainage pipe under the street for that riparian buffer, or no?
Yes, we'll have to do a crossing there.
Or a crossing?
Yeah, crossing, we've not got to the point of sizing that. We'll do that during construction drawing phase, but yes, we'll have some type of culvert there.
Culvert, that was the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Anyone else like to be heard as it relates to Oakmont subdivision?
Yes, Joey Worrells on the
neighboring property on the left side, not the yellow part, but,
Okay. If you give us your address, please, I appreciate it.
305 Matamore's Lane, New Bern.
Thanks, sir.
So, yeah, property's been in my family. Grandparents bought it probably 80, 85 years ago. My mother still lives there. Had some concerns and questions. Mr. Evans, when contacted, was more than gracious. He came out, he answered all of her questions, and we're fine with all of his plans and everything for us. We don't have any issues.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Anyone else like to be heard as it relates to the Oakmont subdivision? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Nathan Evans, 6 Ridgeview Drive, Clayton. I'm the developer, here to answer any questions.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else? All right, bring it back to staff.
Staff recommendations, preliminary approval subject to the conditions and requirements in staff report.
Make a motion to, go ahead.
I was just going to make a note, also in honor of Nicole Hackler, that this is the second subdivision tonight. If approved, that is also in the Carthorter High School and Arch Lodge Middle School school district that are both well over capacity and enrollment. So I would just like to make a note for the record on that.
Thank you.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion for approval by Mr. Little, second by Mr. Hudson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Cooper Branch.
Yes, sir. This is the one that was tabled from last month. I did pass out the map that the Timmons Group made that shows the easement. Its location's Cooper Branch Road at Benny Road. And it is within the ESA no floodplain. If you have any more questions about the property and anybody.
Okay, I think really our only remaining question last time was about the easement. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, so we'll hear from the applicant about the easement.
Good evening again. Keith Roberts, 202 Bonica Creek Drive in Garner. Thank you for your time tonight. And yes, after the meeting last month, we met in the hallway out here with some of the neighbors, and that seemed to be the big issue was the easement and access to property that is landlocked in the back of this property. And then after that, we also I had a conversation with the planning department about it, and looking at the existing, I think last month's map, we did not show what existing easement was, but then we had the surveyor since last month go out and locate it, and it's shown on your plan now. And it basically runs right along the southern property line down towards the south of the property. And after talking with staff and talking with the neighbors, we all feel like it would probably be best if the easement stayed where it is and not relocated. There's an existing farm path within that easement. I had the surveyor go out and locate the farm path to make sure it was within the easement, and it is, and it follows the easement all the way down to the south to where the easement stops, and then it jumps off the property onto the neighbor's property and goes down and crosses the creek. So to make life easier for everyone, we thought we would just leave it where it is. The wood area out there is very thick. It's a cutover. I'm guessing maybe a 10-year cutover. And it's thick as hair on a dog's back. When you drive down there, you can't see 10 feet in front of you. So basically, we'll leave it where it is, leave the access. And even though an easement can be part of a property, on the map you've got, what we actually did was keep the easement off all of the properties, because I was concerned personally about how people like to build fences.
Yep.
And they go out and build fences on the easement, and it's a problem. Now, in doing that and keeping the easement where it is, we did lose one lot. So that was definitely a huge sacrifice on the developer's part to lose a lot in this case. So basically, we'd like to leave it where it is. Now, it does go all the way out to the road, and it would parallel our driveway coming in. And I'm not sure, I feel like DOT probably would not like the idea of having two parallel driveways that close together. So we may need to come in on our street for a little ways, maybe just that first couple hundred feet, and then put a pipe in and then cross over into the easement. But what I can say is we'll have access to the easement prior to the first lot on the left.
Okay. So DOT will dictate what you.
Yeah, I'll ask them about stacking and that kind of stuff. I don't think they would want to, even though, you know, I doubt that the path is going to get used by the farmer more than 5 or 6 times a year is what I would guess, based on my farm experience personally. So, you know, even it'll be low travel. So having some access on the main road coming in there for a few hundred feet, I don't think would be detrimental to safety concerns.
Okay. Any questions, gentlemen? All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else like to be heard as it relates to Cooper Branch? Yes, sir.
Ellsworth Lee, 1683 Cooper Branch Road. I'm the owner of the property that's adjacent to it, and I'm glad to hear that the easement's going to remain where it was for all this time. I think it makes it a lot simpler for everybody. So they lost one lot, you said, or the engineer said, during that time. Which lot was that? Oh, okay, yeah, okay. I didn't get a copy of that. So which one did they lose, if you can tell me?
What they,
I'll let him speak.
you want to do that?
Yeah, if you want
Okay.
to, go ahead if you want to address that.
It's basically, it was 26 lots. There were
Yeah.
22 on this side. Now there's 21 on this side. We just didn't lose a whole lot. It's just a reconfiguration of this side to come up with the 21 lots.
Okay.
So the road's the same. The road network's the same.
Okay, all right. Thank you there. So the other question I had was that we were talking about the last time we met and it was tabled to this meeting was and I understand what he said, one of the other gentlemen said about the runoff is going to be no more or no less than it was when before and after the construction there. And we're concerned, or have been concerned, and will still be concerned about any runoff from these lots that are next to that 50-foot strip that has to be left for the additional little waterway that runs through there. So is there any kind of retention ponds going to be built? I think we talked about that last time and there wasn't a question about that.
Yeah, we talked about that last time. I mean, the purpose of this is really just to hear about the changes in the easement.
Okay.
You know, again, the county stormwater requirements require have pretty stringent requirements on stormwater runoff and containing that stormwater runoff on site and ensuring that the intensity is at the same or less than pre-development conditions.
Okay. And we discussed also about the berm on the front. I think there was going on the front of the road, that Cooper Branch Road. Would there be some berms there? Would the developer put berms?
No, I think we discussed that matter last time. There's no berm proposed.
Oh, even on the highway, because I know you said
There will
last
be
time.
a landscape buffer required, I believe, between Lot 1 and the road frontage. That's part of the county's design requirement.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was asking then. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Again, just a reminder that we heard the issues last month, so we don't necessarily need a repeat of anything other than as it relates to the easement.
My name's Johanna Plaisance. I'm at 211 Chalmers Drive in Clayton.
Yes, ma'am.
Apparently, looking at the map and the map that the county sent me, my land is the only land that abuts to the proposed property in the Greenway. And when the owner logged the land several years ago, she accidentally took some of our trees. My question is, are they going to put any trees in the Greenway? I wasn't here to come to the main meeting.
Help,
Where's the
help me
greenway?
understand the green, what do you mean by greenway?
The land that is to be left undeveloped is called a greenway.
Open space?
Open space.
Yeah.
Okay. We typically refer to it as open space, so thank
Okay.
you.
Greenway, I was thinking actual,
Like path,
Yeah,
greenway,
path,
yes, ma'am.
yeah.
But
Okay. But will there be any trees planted then in the open space, is my question.
we will ask the question if there will be any additional trees planted.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
As you can see from the aerial, it's pretty heavily wooded, and there's no intention to plant any additional trees.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else? All right, bring it back to staff.
Staff recommendation remains the same, of preliminary approval subject to conditions and requirements.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion approved by Mr. Hudson, second by Mr. Sasser. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, we'll move on to the rezoning portion of tonight's public hearings. As a reminder, this board serves as an advisory board to the Board of County Commissioners. These cases will all be heard at the
August 7th.
August 7th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. So if you are here as it relates to either of the rezoning cases before us this evening, just a reminder, you'll also need, or at least have the opportunity to show up at the August 7th Board of County Commissioners meeting. All right. Case 23-14.
Yes, sir. This is a petition to rezone 1.49 acres located at Old Drugstore Road near NC 42 Highway West in the Cleveland Township from community business to general business. Owner is Patricia Matthew Pierce. Applicant's Matthew Trevor Bullard. It's served by the Macklemore Fire District and CNS Rescue Squad. Its existing land use is zoned community business and is vacant land. Its surrounding land uses is zoned agriculture, residential, and used for those purposes. Zoned IHI overlay and used for shopping centers, drugstores, restaurants, etc. Zoned general business and currently being used for a convenience store, auto parts store, restaurant, bar, etc. Traffic count for Old Drugstore Road is not available, and NC Highway 42 is 21,500 vehicles per day, as in 2021. This portion of Old Drugstore Road does not appear on the transportation plan as needing improvement. NC 42 Highway appears as an existing major thoroughfare needing improvement. This area is located within a primary growth area and is in a regional center activity node. There were 3 notices sent out.
Thanks, sir. Any questions? Thank you. Who'd like to be heard on behalf of case 23-14?
Hello, Andrew Bullard, 2807 Wayland Drive, Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Matthew Trevor Bullard. We are petitioning changing from the community business to the general business to open a quick serve or fast casual restaurant, and here to answer any questions that may be had.
Questions of the gentleman? Thanks, sir. Anyone else like to be heard as it relates to case 23-14? All right, bring it back to staff.
Staff recommendations approval based on the consistency statement in the staff report.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion approved by Ms. Davis, second by Ms. Howard. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that will go forward to the Board of County Commissioners as a recommendation for approval, case 23-15.
Yes, sir. This is a petition to rezone 28 acres of a 200-acre lot at the 10,000 block of Buffalo Road in the Wilders Township from agriculture residential to AR conditional zoning. Its owners Robertson Welland Inc. Applicant is Duke Energy Progress LLC. Its request is for a Duke Energy substation and related electrical facilities served by Northside Fire District and Thanksgiving Rescue. It's existing land use is zoned agriculture, residential, and it's vacant land. Surrounding land use is zoned agriculture, residential, and used for those purposes. Traffic count for this portion of Buffalo Road is 9,100 vehicles per day in 2018. Buffalo Road appears on the comprehensive transportation plan as an existing minor thoroughfare with adequate design capacity. It's located in a secondary growth area on the county's comprehensive land use plan. There were 19 notices sent out. And this deals with the portion, as you see on the, looks like the
Right-hand side of
east
the
side,
road.
yeah,
top.
the northeast side of Buffalo.
They do already have an easement at the back of what's proposed here, correct?
That is a,
Overhead power line.
right.
Yes.
Any other questions of staff? Thanks, sir. We'd like to be heard on behalf of case 23-15.
Good evening. Matthew Rowe with the Smith Anderson Law Firm, 150 Fayetteville Street, Raleigh, North Carolina, representing Duke Energy. I do also have here with me part of the project team for this, Micah Retzlaff, Gail Tyner, and Pamela Oakley Lisk. Just a little bit of background, kind of the reason that the substation is needed, and that's why we're asking for this rezoning to the conditional district. It's load growth, as you folks know. Everything is growing in this county and particularly in this area. In addition, it'll give us a reliability by having another substation there. It's a more reliable system in general. And ideally, if power were to go out due to a hurricane or something coming, we would be able to get power back on more quickly with a substation like this. It is 28 acres of the 200 acres currently owned by Roberts and Wellens. It is for essential services, an electrical substation, and related facilities, and it is appropriate for the conditional zoning district. We are keeping the original agricultural residential and just adding the conditional on top of that to allow the substation. We would have the equipment for the substation, interconnection to that transmission line that's in the 100-foot wide easement across the back of the property, as well as vegetative buffer and fencing. The site is monitored remotely. We have not, in the conditional zoning request, expanded it to anything other than electrical substations, so no solid waste, transfer stations, anything like that that would otherwise possibly be in there. It is compatible with the comprehensive plan. It's in a secondary growth area, but it's very near the primary growth areas that are to the north and west, like Flowers Plantation. We do believe it's very compatible with the neighborhood. It's a minimal noise, minimal traffic, minimal environmental impact. The substation itself will be about 1,000 feet from Buffalo Road down a driveway. And the uses adjoining the property, as you can see from there to the north, there's a 40-acre tract with a house on it, but the house is, I believe, 600 feet from the property line. To the east and south is property that's being retained by Roberts and Wellens, and then to the west is Buffalo Road. So we do believe we have enough land here, and it's oriented so that we can maintain maximum separation from adjacent uses. It is, well, we think it's very appropriate for the area and very needed for this area in general. So happy to answer any questions or have anyone from the project team answer questions when you ask things that I can't answer.
Keep the trees all the way down the drive, just take out what you need for your path, or?
Well, on the trees on the trees down the driveway, I believe we're only taking out what we need for the driveway. Closer to the substation, we would have to clear so that nothing's tall enough to fall and hit facilities.
Have you read and are good with all the conditions in the staff report?
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to be heard as it relates to case 23-15? Okay, bring it back to staff.
Staff recommendations approval based on the consistency statement and the condition.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion for approval by Mr. Little, second by Mr. Hudson. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that'll go forward to the Board of County Commissioners as a recommendation for approval. Next on our list is consideration of a 3-year extension of the preliminary plat for overlook at Cattail Lake and the Cattail Mill subdivision. Mr. Moore.
So it's,
Yeah.
so as Todd passes those out or get those distributed. So essentially, Overlook at Cattail Lake and Cattail Mill are two separate approvals. However, they were done concurrently. Back on August 11th of 2020, this body approved each of these developments. Per county ordinance, section 14-177, the expiration of preliminary plat approval, you have 3 years to record some portion of that development, or else that approval will expire. The applicant, the developer, has requested of the board, as per a letter that is included in your packet dated May 23rd, 2023, an extension for each of these developments and he's asking for an additional 3 years. It is the purview of this board and this board only to grant such an extension or any extension that the board deems necessary. So I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have. We're providing those maps just so you can see what was originally approved. This is not changing that approval. It's not changing anything at all with regard to approval. It's just extending that approval if that's in the board's prerogative here. Be glad to turn it over to the developer if you'd like to have any questions of him and or ask any questions of him. He'd be glad to, or his representative would be glad to answer those.
Any questions?
So what I'm looking at is not going to change, is
No,
what
no,
you're
sir.
saying?
No, it will not change
It
at all.
can't be sold and redesigned and brought back to us again?
Not without, if it's a major modification, it would have to come back to the board. But if it's a minor modification, no, sir, what you see is kind of what you get.
Right.
Obviously, with any development, especially of this size, you would expect there may be some meandering of lot lines and lots and laying those out. But and on occasion, the streets, depending on soil conditions. However, if it's not a major modification, it would not come back to this board. If it is, we will see it again. But in this situation, and I think there's some mitigating circumstances that are really bringing about this request.
And we have in the past approved extensions of subdivisions.
Okay.
When there's extenuating circumstances, but we'll hear about those.
Sir.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Alexander Gwynn. I'm an attorney in Smithfield. My address would be 405 East Market Street here in Smithfield. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Rob Bailey and the applicant for this project. As Mr. Braston mentioned, or as he mentioned just now, this application was approved back in 2011, and the ordinance allows for an applicant to request an extension, but doesn't give the basis on which that extension is granted. My understanding is that the grounds for that are essentially that the applicant has not delayed in his efforts and that has been diligent in pursuing the project. Just to give you a little background, what happened was the project was approved by this body in August. Immediately thereafter, the applicant got to work on permitting the project and doing the environmental work. Soon after, the developer, the project team, was approached to sell the property, and they did enter into an agreement to sell the entire, I think it's 573-acre tract under both applications. And pursuant to that purchase agreement, the applicant was required to turn over all design and permitting control to the buyer. So after about, this is in your letter, but in June of 2021, the land was under contract for sale, and then the developer, or the third-party developer who wanted to purchase the property terminated the contract. So they backed out of the deal, and it wasn't until much later, not until October, that my client was able to get a release from the buyer, and then not until December that we were able to get lien waivers from the developers, the third-party developers, consultants. But the important thing here is that what my client was able to do is, between the time that the buyer had backed out of the contract and my client got a full release, they went ahead and got applied for and received NCDOT driveway permits. This was in May of 2022. And since they've gotten back full control of the project, they've resumed the soil science work, and that's nearly complete. Actually, that is complete now. Resumed the wetland survey, resumed the stream and buffer determination, and I won't go through everything in here, but essentially have gone back at work and have been diligent in pursuing the project. So I think it's clear that the applicant has been diligent in pursuing the project and has not delayed, and we would request that this board grant the 3-year extension as provided for in the ordinance.
Okay, I note in the letter, applicant believes an 18-month extension will be sufficient, so I just want to make sure I'm clear on exactly the time you're asking for.
Well, so my client has said that 18 months he thinks would be sufficient extension, but the ordinance provides for a 3-year extension. Okay. So, I think in an abundance of caution, we suggested a 3-year extension. But my client is here, and if you'd like to hear from him, I think he
answered my question.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions of the gentleman, or like to hear from anybody else? Thanks, sir.
All right, thank you.
So with that, we'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to extend.
Okay. So we got a motion to extend for 3 years by Mr. Little, second by Ms. Howard. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. That is granted. Thanks, sir. All right. Any other items for us this evening? Thank you. All right. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right.